Hey everyone, welcome back. I've got most of the side of the car hung on now, ready to do the dog leg and the front lower quarter. But first off, I've got to make the door skin. So I'm going to turn this into the door skin. So let's get to it. Okay, so I've got the floor locked in for good now. I've done a few plugs around, so it's held in. Now I've just got the inner sill sitting in place, so I can mark all the holes that I've got to drill to plug it to the floor. Right, so inner sill prepped and primed, and the back side of this, where it's going to overlap, it's done. So I've just got to do the bottom side now, just prep all this and prime that. So I got the inner sill just plugged in a few spots, so that's ready to do the rest of the plugs the whole way underneath it. But first I've got to get this inner floor sorted. So I made that piece last time for the inner floor. It goes in there. So I've got to get that joined up first so that I can lock this corner off, because after that piece goes on, then I've got the next layer of the inner sill to complete that section. So yeah, I can't put the outer sill on or do any other further work until I finish this corner, because otherwise I won't be able to get in there. So there's the floor layer, which will go up and in there. So still on the inner structure, I've got that floor piece sort of roughed out. I've welded this inner piece in here. I've just got to finish that weld along the bottom there. All the plugs around this perimeter and here are done. And now this is the last little piece for the inner sill, which I've got to cut in and make the right shape. And then it gets like MIG plugs along the bottom side there, as per factory. So like it looks pretty haggard, but that's how it is factory, so I've got to match that to the other side. So halfway through this piece, got that area tigged and buzzed quickly. Just got this area just to tig up. Bottom joint is welded, just got to grind it up, grind the plugs down, and this area should be good. I can move on to remaking this little area of the dog leg that's all caved in and got daylight visible everywhere. So I got a package today from a viewer, Jason. So thanks heaps for this, dude. I'm curious to see what's in there. So I just opened the box up from Jason, and he sent me some panel clamps and a Clicco kit. So thanks heaps for that, dude. You can never have enough of these clamps. You're always one short, or you've kicked the Clicco pliers under a car somewhere and you can't find them. So they'll definitely come in handy. You didn't have to, dude. So I appreciate that. So with my inner sill and a few plugs in it, I've just chucked the outer sill back on just with a clamp, and I'm just going to mark where I can do my plugs, and all my plugs for like in here, and these ones will be drilled 3/4 of the way through because I want to retain the original spot weld on this lip. So I'll go through most of the layers and then I'll leave the actual original one. And yeah, just all my little plug holes for here, all through here. Double checking that it is all fitting and overlapping each other all nice. So this is where you got to do all your little tweaks if they need to be done. So I'm pretty much at the point now where I have this, it's locked in place. I'm going to chuck the door on, double check the door gap, and then probably make a door skin and then have the door hung on the car so I know that they match each other, and then pull the outer sill back off, finish welding the plugs for the inner sill, and then put the outer back on. Then it's front lower quarter, rear dog leg, and it's all locked in for good. But I have to do this arch, obviously. This arch is rotted away, so just another thing to make. I'll do the inner arch before the outer sill goes on, because it goes under that, obviously. So I got the door hung back on. Forgot to say earlier, these little oil line protectors, they go here on the underside of the sill, so I've got to put those back on as well. But look at how massive the gaps are. So that's the door pushed the whole way back. It's still got a big gap there, so yeah, there's a lot of monkey business going on here, but I'll probably do the same as the other side and pull that out, tighten it right up, because the other side's definitely not that large. The other side looks appropriate. So right, so door back on to check the sill gap, and it is fitting decent. So I'll put the dog leg on just to see. So that's all going to fit up fine. Just got to move the sill up at the front here. Got a gap here, and you can see the gap's bigger than it is at the back there, so the sill's got to come up just to meet that face, and should be all good. And then just got to sort out these gaps, same as the other side. Play with all this so that it's not gigantic. Can't fit your finger inside there, like, doesn't need to be that big. And this door, it's pretty sad up through here at the front of the line, so I'm not sure if I'll do a half door skin and make that line again. It does sort of wander off as well in this area, so may as well, if you're doing a door skin, there's no point joining down here, may as well just do that. So it's got a nice line. I'm pretty sure the inner has to be done as well. From memory, I've got some daylight, and it's probably pitted like the other side, but we'll see. Definitely some pitting going on there, so that's got to be sorted. This area here is also going to be another challenge. I can't get up in there as much as I like, so I wouldn't mind trying some like PDR style repairs with glue and pulling this area out instead of cutting an access hole on the inside and getting it out. I wouldn't mind trying some pull methods on there, but the line is pretty sad, so someone's already done the whole screw and pull trick before, so I'll see how we go with that. It's nice to get first attempt at the repair, not the second-hand repair like this. Alrighty, Monday morning, back on the Cosmo. So I've got the outer sill pulled back off, got some plugs on the inner to the inner, and got this area welded on. Just about to recreate this inner wheel arch now, so I'm going to get paper, template it. So just paper and magnets as usual, and just give yourself all your reference points. And it's probably going to be another two-piece one. I can't see me getting all of this in one shape, but we'll see. It'll probably be one split down the center again. Got stung by a bloody wasp. I was taking pictures of a car to sell outside, and now I reached my hand up in there to hang on and take a picture, and it got stung me. Little prick. So that's laid out on the sheet now, ready to use the razor blade to mark all my little tips. Now I might actually get this one because compared to the front one was massive down the sides, whereas this one I don't need to go the whole way. I'll be able to dig along this edge where it's still good and just come return a little bit under this. So we'll see how we go. I might be able to tip this one on the bead roller and get it in one piece. Sweet, so we've got our piece marked out. I use tape just to save drawing the line with pen. It's a pain in the arse. It's easier to see the tape. And just got the normal tipping upper with a soft lower wheel in there. And we just run that line, probably I'd say at a guess 5-6 times per side. And just gentle force pulling upwards against the upper die. Doesn't have to have crazy pressure pushing down, just moderate pressure. It's more about the laps that you're going to have to do. You can't just get it in one pass. Alright, so that's with one pass each side. It's faintly started to tip it over, and now to make it easier for yourself, it is good to trim it off the right size that it needs to be. That way it'll just help it go over instead of it trying to stretch all this area here. It only has to worry about that little flange, and that way you can use the kick shrinker to give it little bites of where it needs to be shrunk to pull it around to shape. Much better lighting here. My wife got me some lights for the shop, so I've done half the shop, and so much better. It's just a cave down that end, but I can actually see what I'm doing on these machines now. I used to not be able to even see in this corner, so it's great. Okay, so we're trimmed up now to size, and for this fold here I'm going to go with a round radius because it is round factory, whereas this is a tight square. So we'll continue tipping this side over with a round upper die. Alright, so I got this side turned, just gave it a little kick shrink where it needed on this flange, so we're good for that shape. And we We just got to worry about tipping this side now with a rolled radius. So I'll change this guy now to like a rolled radius, probably something like this guy, probably the right radius for it. And I'll put the soft lower bottom wheel back in, so this one. Alrighty, so change those over. Now I'm going to be driving on this side of the line because I know where it's going to try and start its radius. I don't want to be starting right in the middle of where I've tipped it. I want to be starting the radius a bit back from it. So I know I've got to drive on this side of the line. So I've done 2 passes on that and it's starting to roll it right over. You've got to routinely come over and check just to make sure if you've got to be in front of the line a bit more or if you're heading in the right direction. And as with the other side, it's going to need to be shrunk a lot in this area here, especially with all this material here, to let it roll right over. So we just take it back over, kick shrinker, give it a bit of shrink along here to help it, and it should start pulling around nicely. Right, so it's probably about as much as I can turn it before I've got to do this next flange, which is this, because obviously it's crashing into it. So I have marked it using the template on the other side, but I need it on this side, so I'll probably transfer that now with the template, so overlap it, and give that a tip. Sweet, so I've got that magneted back on. It's showing me I'm in the right spot now because I've lined it up with my top edge. And just got to pretty much push that down there, scribe this flange on, and give that a tip over. It will be sweet. So I'll trim all this down now, let's mark it all out, trim it all up. So there's my flange tip, and that's my excess to trim off. So I'll get that done now. Alrighty, so I have it clamped on, just on this face, and we can see we're way off at the back side here. So I'm going to give this edge a cork inwards to try and pull all this area around. And I'll just be using this and just tapping that edge over, and then I'm assuming I'm going to have to stretch maybe this edge down. I have to see once it goes in and sees what it wants to do, if it needs more taken out of here or if it needs to be stretched here. Right, so cork that over, it's now touching in this area. It's still lifting off a smidge on this edge here, so it needs to get curled over a bit more, and I've got to shrink just this bottom corner here to let it tuck under a bit more, just hanging off a bit. Alright, so that is roughed out now. It's ready to do little final tweaks, but it's fitting pretty good. Just got to do little tweaks here and there just to let it pull around. But can't argue with that. For those wondering, why don't you do little patches on this? By the time you do 20 little patches here of all daylight and all on the edge, it's just a mess. Just remake the whole thing, join somewhere where you can do a nice TIG weld and you've got access to both sides, and that's the nicest way to repair it. Sweet, so I got that area welded on, and just gave it some weld through on this edge so I can get access to any of this weld that I can't really get right now while I'm in an awk position, but I'll get that once I get the car up in the air. Just give that a belt sand inside there. Alrighty, so I've just thrown the sill back on just so I can start marking all the spots so that I don't interfere with the standard spot. I'm going to go in between it, so if you look from the inside it's still got the standard spot weld there. I'm just going to mark all the ones around the perimeters where I need to drill them, and then I can prep this sill to go on for the last time really. Alright, so just prepping the inside of the outer sill now. Just drew it on my plugs, just giving the inside a prep so that I can prime it. So the outer sill is now locked in place for good. I've done a few plugs around the perimeter and a few in the middle, and it's pretty much ready to start playing a bit further. I've got to do all the plugs along there. I couldn't get to the spots underneath there, so I've done 2 stitches instead, but the rest of these plugs will be easy to do. Get rid of these ones, and yeah, I've got to do the whole bottom side as well now, and then fit this the bottom of the lower quarter, get that fitting good, and join it to the top section of that, and then we can worry about fitting those little oil line supports that go under here. So they go there and there on the other piece. So I'm going to have a look at them because they sound like a little sand timer. Sounds like there's sand inside there, so I have to look. I might even try and remake them because it's a bit of a mess. They've done brass welding and stuff when it's had a prang and monkeyed it up a bit, so I'll look at making those instead. So pretty much ready to put the last fold in the dog leg, which is the bottom of here. So that's got to fold around and it actually angles up, and it's because the sill actually steps up there, they just fill the hell out of it with lead, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do the same as I did on the other side, make an infill piece just for this little step up there, so it actually ends up flat, because yeah, I don't really want to have it full of lead. It's not ideal. So yeah, this is now flat on this side. I'm just going to finish off the plugs there, and then that's all factory. So I'll mimic the close my eyes and just welds under there for the other side. Alrighty, so I've got the lower quarter hung back on now, and the bottom side tacked to it, and that's where these little guys sit. They go in those little areas. So one there and one there, and that's to protect the lines that run to the back of the car. They go along, get clipped along the whole way along there, and then run up through that channel there. It's obviously different to the other side. The other side doesn't have any provision for the oil lines. So I've made a die set for the body line, so I'm just going to put a bit of scrap in there now and just run it through, see what tweaks it needs. I'm assuming probably going to have to file a little bit of these faces a bit more just to get it squared up and sharper. We'll see. Okay, so not bad. A few little drag marks on there, so just polish the faces up. It'll fix those issues. It's digging in a little bit here, and because my clamps are higher than the bottom of that bed there, so just got to lower the clamps down so that they actually droop down to this height, and then there won't be any damage there. But other than that, not too bad for a first run. A few little tweaks on the die, and then it should be good. Obviously no oil on this run either, so these probably won't even be on there if I did oil it up. So give it a test. Look, I'm not going to argue with that. A few little tweaks and it should be golden. I've obviously got a big run to do, the whole door skin with it, and then I'm probably going to replace this back section here because the line is just a mess. It drops in and drops in again. It's chaos. So unpicking the inner wheel tub, and I'll just replace the line from here, or at least from here, and I'll cork that line back out. But yeah, this is just a disaster. Alright, so that is much nicer for this pass. So I'll get it out of there, wipe all the oil off. Alright, so that's good as. So that is for this body line. So I'm going to chop it in half and just use the upper side of it as the factory overlap. Alrighty, so while I got the body line die in the Pull Max, I may as well do the door skin. So I'm just going to mark it out on this 400. Chop it down and run the body line through. Now I have noticed I'm getting a bit of crowning going on because I'm clamped in just the center only, so the center is at a different height. These can freely start to splay up, so I might run it through just with another pass again, but put some downward pressure on here and try and pump that center up. I think the only way around that is to clamp like some like 10mm plate to it either end or something like that, but then you're going to crash into the die, so might be a tricky one actually. I might have to like spot something to the tops to keep it flat. We'll see. I think this is where I regret not getting 2400 long for these. I only got 1200, so I might order the 2 meter long ones and another set of clamps. That way I can clamp it in 4 positions, and that way it all has to stay on the same plane then. So yeah, I made that one but not happy with it. There's a little wobble just in the center there. It's very minor, but the clamp system come loose. So I've got little G clamps there just as a security for when these vibrate loose, and even the G clamps vibrated loose, so it's I'll do another run of that. Not really happy with that piece, so cut another one and try again. Alright, it's a success for the second run. Probably looks the same on the camera, but there's no wobbles on this one, so happy days. The reason for changing the line the whole way is it's just a mess. It goes up, down, fades off, sharpens back up. It's just, yeah, it's had wax and stuff everywhere, so it's just, by the time you dick around, try and cork all that back out and file it up, it's just not worth it. It's never going to be as nice as just doing a fresh piece. I've got a weld on there anyway, so I feel like it's pointless to do a join down here or even half the line when it's just it's still a mess. The upper is still so knocked around and it's not as crisp as it should be, and it explains why they've cut the access holes out now. They've used that access hole to cork all these lines in and do heat shrinks and stuff everywhere, so it's just I don't really want to be playing with a second-hand repair. Alrighty, so I've made some cardboard templates for what I want the door skin to be like. So if I line that up with the body line, I'm going to have the gap set to how I want it to be set instead of gigantic. So I've got those, transfer those to this bit of sheet on the opposite side obviously. So there's my tip line. So I'm going to give it a quick trim of just a 10mm perimeter, and then I'm going to start tipping this edge into this new door skin. So I need to add some shape into the door, so a little bit of shape through the center, and just add this profile of the door as well. So I'm going to run it through the wheel a few times in this area. Alright, so a fair few passes on this, it's some gradual shape added to it, so I'll go take it over to the car and see what more it needs. Alright, so I'm happy with the shape that's put in it at the moment, so sit it on there, and I'm going to go tip this edge on the bead roller now. So using the normal tipping upper wheel and then the soft lower. So I always run it through just to make sure I'm comfortable with which way I want to run it, so I don't run into a corner, and make sure I can actually fit the whole way around and spin around, and it's not going to clash into the back of the machine or anything, or into anything around me. Alright, so that's one faint pass to the bead roller just to show me where I am. I'm going to go trim that down 10mm and then continue to tip it around with a few more laps. Alright, so I've done a slit where the body line is, and I've done about 3 laps with the bead roller, so it's only turned over that far, not far enough yet, so I'll probably do the rest by hand because the tipping wheel starts to clash. So I've got to fix a bit of damage here. There's a split along the line there where it's been hit in and pulled out, it's torn, and on the edge there's a little tear as well as fix this door gap up. It's got to be extended out, that area to address, and these bumper tears from where it's had a rear hit, it's split the bumper, and this side's been elongated out to suit, so I've got to infill those back in, fix this little tear up in the body line as well. And a bit of damage on the boot for the lid and the car itself, and some rust around the fuel flap, which I'll get to once I put the car back down to a normal height. But at the moment, just playing around with the various body line pieces that need to be made. So this is going to be for the top of the quarter. I'm not really happy with the roundness of that. I've got this infill for the top for the factory overlap. Alrighty, so I got the back piece tacked in place, front one's done and welded in. The center I left alone because it's going to get all these plugs welded up anyway. Now I just have the laser on here just so I can set this piece, but it's pretty weird. The line's really dropped here in the crashed area, so we're fine at both ends of the line, but yeah, in the center it's really unhappy. So top half both sides welded on, just doing the top of the lower quarter now. To buzz that off. Alrighty, so I got that lower quarter just hung back on roughly, and I'm gonna start attacking the door skin now. So notice there's a little bit of a wobble right at the end there. It starts to kick upwards on the body line, so I'm gonna see how I go about this. I'd like to redo it for the 3rd time, but yeah, we'll see. I might unpick this door skin here and see if I can repair this if it wants to come up nicely. I highly doubt it because they've made a little MIG maniac mess in there, but I'll see if I can chop it here, bring that body line back up and just do a join there, same as the other side. That'd be nice. Otherwise I'll just remake this piece and I'll have to make sure it stays pretty straight, because it's I think it's how I've run it on these clamps, because it's so long, the door skin, I can only grab it from here to get the full travel. So I think I might actually invest and get the 2400 long pieces of these, that way I can get 2 more of these and run door skins dead straight. Alrighty, so trimmed the door skin off and then just buzzed around the edge. No need to try and save it, it's a wreck. And Mazda loves to put their little hidden spot welds along the edge of the door skin perimeter. But yeah, as we can see, it's toast in here, so we need to redo the inner. This area is pretty good. It's just the center, a few holes in the center there, and then this area here is pretty pitted and crusty, so we'll just do a little corner here and probably a piece in the center. The rest will come good. So yeah, I don't really like my chances of pushing that up with the MIG welds all holding that in place, so I might relieve it and probably be able to bump all the line back up. Any little dents and stuff in I should be able to address while I got this open before I do my join. So my approach to bump the line up is to cut the MIG weld out, because that's holding pressure there, using this little piece here to hold against the line, and I don't have enough physical strength to hold it with my hand, so I'm going to wedge it in there by using this, pushing it up against it, and then tapping the front face, and it should bring that line up with any luck. To some success, the line did come up. So I've just got to infill that little end of it now. Some success doesn't come without injury though, so this bit's sharp as shit, so got me good. The center section of the door, quite pitted along the edge here, so I'll go and remake that section there. I'll probably join it same place as the other side, through the center there. Got access both sides, you can do a nice job. It's got a hole in it as well, so we'll patch in that. And remember from the R100 video how we got this little indent there for this. Just mark it on here, get it between 2 plates, and clamp it to the plates, and then just tap that area down. We've got a clamp between 2 plates, and I'm going to use this chisel, get this little square one, so that will get pushed tight against there. Give it a few bops along, spin it around, do the same with the other side, and it should have a pretty uniform step. Obviously every action is going to create a reaction. This is going to bulge out now, so you need to stretch this area back this way. So use a dolly like that, push that area back down, and happy days. So that is sorted. I switched over to just a plate in this to give me a flatter edge to hit against. So I'll cut this section out now, replace it, and should be happy days. Alright, so overlaps are primed in that area. I've got plugs drilled, so I can get it on, and then I'm going to remake this top section. Okay, so center section been replaced now. So moving on to this area, which is all pitted, and it's pitted up, rusted from the inside out, which is here. It's a little hard to see on camera, but yeah, it's pretty well rotted there, so can't really leave that. I've just got the hinge out of the way, and to recreate this corner here, I just got a paper template to give me what I need. Transfer that onto steel, and then I bead rolled the initial shape there, but obviously we're going to need a ton of stretch on this edge to get it to lay over and pull around this corner. So you could do it in 2 pieces if you want, but I'll try and just get it out of 1 piece, just make sure it's nice there's not a weld along the edge or anything, because the door skin's got to sit against that, so I'd rather it be as factory as it can be. This one's pretty easy, it's just a single fold. I've just got to go down and get rid of all that pitting there, so I've just got to cut this layer off so I can have a look inside there, and then TIG that patch in. So rounded off tipping wheel for the top, because it's not a sharp fold on this, it's a pretty radius fold, so get it to that point, and then linear stretch with the pull max to pull it all around. This can be done with the kick shrinker stretcher as well, it just leaves jaw marks, and this is a lot faster, so may as well use the machine if I've got it. Might need final little tweaks like shrinking that if you've overstretched it, and just tapping these corners to suit. But yeah, after a little bit of hand tweaking, pretty happy with it. And we drill out all these spots and pop the inner structure off. That way I'm ready to cut the outers off and replace them. Alright, so clamped in place, how it fits. So I'll do 2 Cleco reference points on there, and then I'll trim it all out of the way. Alrighty, so that's all trimmed out and got well through on there, so that will go in there. Obviously on the other side of that, it's just wet still. Now I'll trim this one down to go here. Alright, so all zapped in, done my MIG plugs on there, MIG on this section, and then everywhere else is TIG. So I'll give it a clean up now, and hammer and dolly it where it needs, and check back. Okay, so all cleaned up, don't have to go overkilled. It's the bottom of a door, so it doesn't have to be perfect file finish, just neat and tidy. Inside, leave all your plugs, just give it a general tidy up, don't have to go crazy inside there. Alrighty, so I brought the line up using a combination of just a rounded off piece, up and in there, and then these 2 hammers, flat face for the top, and this for this area here, so you're pretty much hitting against the die, and then bring the line back up, because it was all caved in through there, and then using just a block, a bit of sandpaper, just to cut the radius in and work out where you're going. So now that I've brought it up, I can infill this little section here. Alrighty, so I've got that little infill welded in there. Just been playing with the line, sharpening it up here and there, but I'm probably not going to argue with that too much. Just a little wobble there to address, but it's matching for the rest of it. Alrighty, so I have the door and the door skin just hung on in place. It obviously needs the gaps played with everywhere. The front has to be extended on the door, same as the bottom, so it's got to tighten up all this by adding to the door skin. This back area, I tried to pin pull it. It didn't really want to play at all. It's too damaged. There's too much strength there. So I've got to unpick the inner wheel arch and get access to in there. So attempt to repair it first. If it doesn't come good, replace. So just priming the inside of the door skin and the door shell. So I'm going to slit it on for the second last time. Scribe my cut line, cut that, and roll this section here. Alrighty, so door skin is tic-tacked end to end. I have access inside there just with a little half hammer and dolly, so I can get in pretty much the whole way there. I just undid their little patch, it was oxy cut and welded back on there, so I'll just remove that just so I have access all the way to the end. Got to weld that up anyway, so no harm done. So I'll pretty much continue to weld this throughout and repeat the process of wire wheel, 36 grit, 80 grit, hammer and dolly until it's done. Alright, so that's welded fully the whole way along now. So wire wheel, 36, 80 and planish. I want to address this dented in and caved in body line at the moment. So to get access to that, I've got to unpick this inner skin. So as you can see, it's already been whacked about so they could get the outside out as far as they could, but yeah, they had no access either. So I'm going to trim this along and cut it along through here, so I can't get access to any of these spots that join the tub together because it's right up against the quarter, so it's annoying. And there's a metal drain tube that runs along, so I have to sit about that far off. I can't cut right there. I've got to cut probably a 20 mil in, and then yeah, drill all these spots out along here, take the inner quarter out, and that'll give me access to this body line. So ideally I'd like to attempt to repair this instead of cutting it out and remaking it, but we'll see because the damage spreads all the way up to here, so the body line is sunken in. Zipped with the air saw, it's loose, so now I just got all these plugs to go, started drilling them, so I'll get those off and then we'll have access. There's that inner tub out, and it was pretty much a time bomb anyway because it was trapping water right on the edge there where they've done their old school screw-on pools, and it's yeah, just trapped water the whole way along that edge in there and just rotting it away. So it's probably a good thing that I did get it out. But yeah, that's that's your access there. So that's the top of the quarter. You've got about 5 mil, which is where the drain tube is, and no access anywhere else. So let's have a crack at repairing this. So the body line is actually split along here as well. You can see daylight through there. So yeah, when they've done their screw and pull, really weakened this area. So you have to TIG that up and TIG the holes up as well. Now on this area here, there's a few spots that need to have some shrinks done in there. It's a bit springy, so I've already done 2 shrinks there. Just need to do probably a third one just in that area there, just a little low. So now I just don't know how good this is going to come up because it's so pitted and soft, but we'll see. I'm pretty frustrated here. I've got the top pretty good, pretty happy with the top, but the bottom, the line is just dropping up and down just because it's just so stretched in that area, and all here just does not want to play. So I think I'm just going to have to replace that lower section, which is annoying, but I'd like to have had it repaired. But yeah, the line's just too much stretch there. It does not want to play ball. Just wants to go drop right down here, and then it just picks back up and then drops back down. It's just not playing nice. Top side sorted. The line did come okay, but it's just too flimsy. It's got a starting to tear here and split up where there's just too much material trapped there. Got pitting and a hole here. It's just not nice, so I'm just going to replace this section. It was worth a try getting it, but yeah, if this hadn't already been screwed and pulled and yeah, smashed around and not rotted behind, and it's so weak, then it would have been pretty good. But I don't really trust leaving that. If I put the inner back on and start spotting it to it, it only just has to move a fraction and it sucks the whole thing in, so I don't really trust that. I'm just going to remake that piece out of this. So do that tomorrow. Alrighty, so given up and just remade this piece now. So just got to turn the edge for the door edge and give this top area a shrink to let it pull over, because the quarter's not actually straight, it tapers off to a different shape. So yeah, bit of a shrink on this top, and then give it a trim. It should be good. Turn the wheel arch opening into it. So there's my wheel arch marked out. So I'm going to go to the bead roller now, tip that in, which is obviously this opening here. First pass with the bead roller for the wheel arch tip, and obviously these corners need to have a lot of linear stretch in them, so I've got to gradually keep going to the machine and linear stretch these corners as I'm tipping this over, because it's going to try and lock me out. So that's hung back on the car, and it needs a few little tweaks. So it needs a little bit of shrink here and here, just to let that pull over. And it needs a thumbnail shrink around here to pull that top corner over. So I did my thumbnail shrinks and then I ran it into the wheel, but I ran too far into this area and I damaged this area here, so I might have fucked this whole piece up here. So after a dummy split or two, it's seeming to go my way. Now this quarter is very deceiving. It's not flat at all. It tapers right towards the back of the car. So yeah, it's very deceiving that the shape you think it's going to be flat, but it's far from it. So to get that body line to curve around was a nightmare, because I had to stretch all this down to stretch the body line in. So I've still got little areas just to adjust and tweak. A bit more stretch needed there and up the top here, but overall it's sort of working. I'm not entirely happy with it yet, but it's better than what was there so far. Just gave it a few tweaks on the corners there. I had to square up the arch opening. It was a lot squarer than what I had. I had it very round, but just gave this top area a run through just a 2-inch radius, and it's come up a lot smoother. Now I've just got to fix up this bottom. It's just got a bit funny on me, the bottom radius. When I've tipped that edge, it's just sort of got a bit of a square going there, so needs a bit of work. And overall planish for the top, a lot better. Alrighty, so just overlapped the dog leg, just roughly. It's only got one cleco in it because it's not lining up, obviously it wants to move forward a smidge. But yeah, that'll be that. I'll probably end up welding the dog leg to this quarter maybe. I've got access behind there now with the inner wheel well out, so I don't know, I might leave that off or I might join it first. I'll see. Oh, no turning back now. You can see just how high up the inner wheel tub goes. So a little bit of crust to repair up in there as well. So it's good to be able to get to that and the underside while I'm here. Alrighty, so I'm going to lower it down now and do this rust around the window while I've got access up in there. And interesting, these two tubes, I was wondering where they actually went. One runs, they run all the way from the front of the car. One's a fuel tank vent, so it runs into the boot that side. And the other one disappears in the inner quarter and exits via a drain in there. But yeah, pretty crazy, they ran that the whole way inside the car in hardline. I thought it was a drain originally for this vent, but it's not. That just pisses water straight in down the quarter, so that's nice. Crazy to me that they went to the extent of like hard lines like that, thinking ahead there, but then didn't think of water straight away there or in the front quarter, which is the main rust for this car. Crazy. So rust like this, I'm probably going to do a join from here and just go to the factory join, which is there. And I'll see how pitted this area is, if it's going to let me join along this face, or if I'm better to come across here, make the whole piece. We'll see how bad it is, because sometimes joining to pitted area, it's just such a basket case, the TIG doesn't like it, and it yeah, turns to shit very quickly. Alright, so pretty simple piece, just a 90 with the press brake, and then just linear stretch this edge until you match the radius, and I'm going to have to shrink this edge here to give it this pull. And then yeah, just probably go back and forth until it matches perfectly, and then I'll tip this next edge into it. It tapers off into nothing. Alrighty, top is made. So now I just have to tip the next edge on it. So I've scribed that on. So I'm going to tip that edge on there now. Alright, so that edge now tipped most of the way. Got to do this separate little taper off. So all done. Now just give it a trim up and weld it in. So that's all repaired. Geez, the light's terrible here, it's reflecting straight off it. Okay, so 5 o'clock Wednesday, just wrapping up for the day. This quarter is now tacked on for good. Just got to go along and just give it a bit more of a planish here and there, and then just TIG the rest of it up. So hopefully coming along. Quarter is welded on for that side. Haven't done the plugs on the opening yet. I'll wait till I connect the dog leg there, because I've still got to play with the door gap. I've got to add to the door along there so the gap matches the front. But yeah, this area here is just giving me a lot of grief. So I'm hoping that it comes good, but yeah, I'm glad that there is access from the inside to that join. But yeah, this area is just giving me a massive amount of grief. Right, so welded and buzzed with the 80 on the top. Now there's a few little areas I'm just not happy with at the line and just under it, so I'll continue on those. But other than that, top sides come up pretty good. I'll probably stuff around with a little bit in my own time while I've still got the inner wheel tub out. But at the moment I'm probably going to get the dog leg connected and on, so that's pretty much ready to go on. Just gonna trim it up, and then yeah, finish off these areas here. So getting ready to put the dog leg on. It goes over the top of this, so like that. I've been playing with the door gaps. Now I've got to weld this little gap up here on the dog leg, so I'll TIG that together now. Before I can put that lower quarter on for good, I've got to finish off these plugs underneath on the sill where it overlaps until. But my hands are giving me a lot of grief this morning with the Reynards. I can't feel a thing in both hands. It lasts for about half an hour until they come back to normal. So very frustrating in the cold. anytime I touch something cold, or if it's really cold temperatures like winter, it causes it. So plugs underneath the sill there, done. So I can sit this on for the last time now. So just have the door off at the moment, just tidying up this edge here, and just tidying up any of the lip that needs to be addressed, and I'll throw the door back on. So the little line protectors have got to go on now. They go there and there, and there, obviously from here. Alrighty, so they're tacked on. Just I'm going to double check with a mate, but I know I've marked them front and back. This one's just under 10 mil, and this one's nearly 12 mil. So there's a slight little discrepancy there, but I know that was front and back, so I'll double check with a mate, but yeah, I'm certain that's how they are. Lined up with the cut marks when I cut them off, so had to be that way. So I think now I'll just fix these bumper mount holes. Both sides there's elongation there, so I'll fill that back in. There's a little hole there, and then there's a hole here in the center of the arch, so fix all those up, and then bring the car back down in height, and I'll get to the fuel flap rust. And I've got to fix the damage in the inner wheel tub as well before it goes back in. I'm going to leave that out because there's a battery tray rusty piece as well there to sort out, so while I've got access up into the quarter, I'll leave that off until last. So yeah, I need to get to that area there. It's all pitted and rusty, so much easier being able to get my hand up in this area. That's a bit of damage to take care of. A few creases and bangs and denties, prang. So patched, little elongations, a piece in the center of the arch. So now I'm going to bring it down and do the fuel flap rust. So for the fuel flap rust, we've got a piece there, here, and the top section as well. So patch those in, and for the boot floor, it's pretty pitted. It's sad around this area here, and here where the battery tray and stuff bolts in. So obviously got to repair the battery tray as well. Also got this boot lock damage, which is here. It's been pried on, and the lock area has actually been pried completely out. It's meant to look like this. So most of that dressed up. Just a little divot here to go, but yeah, the boot lock shape and stuff come up just using this dolly, and just leave a bolt, where I put it, just to tap the lip back down, because it's swelled up here, so that when you push that back down, it pushes this area back up. But it'll do that. Right, so I got the front two patches done, and taking the top layer off this, it's rusty underneath, so got a little patch for that. So cut that in, get that zapped in. So that piece is tigged in, sanded up, and just remade the top section, because no point joining to the old junk. So I bought through primer on those bits, and as I was saying before, yeah, no point joining to this, putting a little 10mm section in it just to put the original piece back on. Just remake it, it's easier. So that's zapped in there, and I've got access to get to this little bit of distortion here from inside the fuel flap, and should come up alright. Alright, so all welded and sanded up. So I'm out of MIG gas at the moment. So I normally like to go for the drive to get both bottles done at the same time. So I've got a little bit of TIG gas left. So I've just been looking at the list, seeing what's left, and probably going to jump on inside the car, do this tunnel tear. There's a bit of rust on the firewall up there. There's some rust here to do as well. So I'll try and do things that require the TIG more than the MIG to tack things in place, and see how we go. So there's the inner quarter, just two piece joined along the middle, and that goes in here. It's really tight fit, so I don't really want to push it in there, and it's a bastard to get back out. So I'll give it a prime on all the overlapping areas, mark through here, do my cut, and then I'll make this front piece. Well, I had to push it in there no matter what to do my little pen scribe. Now I know where to cut, and my plugs that have to be drilled, probably along through here as well. Alright, so ready to plop in there, so I'll get it in. Alright, so nice and tight fit, and I can get to all this. So I'll get to zapping that in, and I'll make this front piece as well. So front piece I'll do the same as last time. I'll join along half on the spot welds so you don't see it from inside. I'm going to make these underfloor braces. They're all crumpled and ruined, so just fold them up on the press brake, and then just cut the tops and just fold them in to taper off, tig that edge, and that should be sweet. And the same with this side, really, just let the top, leave it long, and should be able to curve the actual piece around on itself, tig it all together, and then leave it long for the bottom flange. Just folded up the base shapes. Now I've got a little template to cut the end to taper down, and it should be good. So slit that, fold it down, tig it back together, should be happy days. And these will be the exact same. So cut and just clamp down in place, so just tig that up and repeat it, should be happy days. All four ends welded up, so I'm going to give them a wire wheel, sand them, usual process, and then get to making these other intermediate ones. Sweet, so they're all sanded up now. I'll give the inside a quick tidy up before I prime it all up, but they're sweet. I can focus on doing these center ones. Alrighty, so they're all made now, so we're ready to split these ones in the center and just fold up all the little overlaps. So we're going to do a little step over and just a fold to the top for it to spot onto. My guess as to get this shape here is it needs to be trunk there, so if I take a pie cut out of that, it should roll around. So Richard's going to pop past in the morning. He's actually going around the corner, so I've just marked all the little areas that I've got left, like little splits, hairline cracks, holes, stuff like that in the doors that all need to be addressed. And yeah, you can see what's really left over in the car while he's here. So he gave me a good excuse to clean up the workshop, rearrange a few things. It's much better to work in now. So just got the machines that are easily immovable in the doorway, so I can just shuffle those out of the way, get rid of the car in and out, and then yeah, got rid of my stand, so no more stacking cars, just got them all lined up in here now on the ground. No more shoving cars in that don't need to be in here. So yeah, much nicer way to work. So Richard popped in for a checkup of the car, see what's left, and brought these hammers with him, which is awesome gift. I love old tools like this, so I'm going to polish these up and see how good they come up, but you just don't get stuff like that anymore. So happy with how it's progressing along, seeing what's left on the car, and pretty much next time he comes here the car will be finished and ready to go to the paint shop. So happy days. So I'm going to get all the last little areas that need to be welded up, little splits and holes and stuff, and then get it on the hoist, do the underside, and then drop it back down. I've got a dent in the roof and a crease and stuff in the roof to sort out, so that'll be very last. I'll do the roof because I'll take it off the frame and get it right down to the ground so that I can get the planishing hammer in the center of the roof. I'm only short. So I noticed a little hairline split there. It's hard to get the camera to focus on it, so I'm going to V that out and tig it up, and then polish them up and see how cool they come up. So I haven't been filming much of this, but this is hours and hours and hours of whacking and whacking and whacking. Just trying to get this line to come up and be as perfect as I can before I put the wheel tub in, and then no one can get access to it ever again. So yeah, bit of a mission, but it's got to be done. 2 hours in, it's come up okay. Still little imperfections here and there, but it's probably as good as a peasant like me can get, because self-taught, you don't really know what you're doing the whole time, and it's easy to lose a whole day in something like this. And I'm doing it for free anyway because I'm not charging for something that I'm slow at, which is like filing up repairs and stuff like this. Just want to get it as best as I can before this inner quarter goes in, because otherwise they've got no access to that join at all. So yeah, I thought I'll help out the next bloke in line so that he doesn't curse me. So just going to do a shuffle at the moment. My arms are pretty dead. I'm going to put it on the hoist and do the underside braces under the car, which are all these guys. They have to go all under the floor pans. So they look like this on the floor pans. So yeah, got to get it in the air, chuck those on. But I have put the little carpet standoffs and stuff in now. All the plugs are done on the floor pan except for this join here, which I'll do when it's in the air. So yeah, shuffle these two off and I'll put it on the hoist and battle on. Alrighty, so all switched around and chucked on the hoist. Now, I'm not sure how long this episode actually is because it's just various bits and pieces I filmed from weeks and weeks ago. So I'll see how long it is. If it ends here, it ends here, and there'll be a final episode which will include the finish off of the car, and I will be continuing on the rest of the journey of the car. So I'll be following it to the paint shop, doing updates at the paint shop, and then a final assembly. So you will see this car finished off completely. So yeah, I've got to put the floor braces on, which are the remnants of this, and then do this pinch join with all the plugs along there and give it a grind up, and then obviously do this join here as well. So I'm going to get to putting those on at the moment, and then just a final grind up underneath it, really areas that I couldn't get to under the spare wheel well. So I'll finish grinding all that up and yeah, give it a real good clean up. So prepped and primed the long underside braces, so I'll just let them dry and start prepping the bottom side of the car. So time to fit these underfloor braces now, and they go there, and then the side ones and they go across here and up and wrap around the other side of the floor there. Massive day of welding and overhead grinding to get these main ones on, to get the join welded up, and I've started to get these sorted on there now. But yeah, doing all the plugs along the whole side of all the floor edges and stuff, absolute nightmare. But wasn't going to put it on a rotisserie just to do one day's work. So yeah, pretty much tomorrow battle on and get these sides infilled and get the other side to the same point, get them welded on, get these little the oil or fuel line, whatever the hell they protect, get those welded on. And then I've got little tabs I've still got to weld on up here, like little fold over tabs which go like there. So I've got to copy those, put those on, and I did notice I missed a drain. So I had it marked on the other side, so I've got to drill and press that drain here. Yeah, battle on tomorrow. So you can see the reason why I'm going to body drop mine is that's the floor height off the bottom of the sill. So yeah, I don't want any of that hanging down, and you can see why it was so crushed in the past. It's just hangs so far down below that sill, and yeah, we ain't going to be having any of that. So while I'm under here, got to fix some little issues like this nut being missing for the gearbox cross member. So this side's okay, this side's missing, so I've just diagrammed the hole out, and I'll TIG a nut in there, so that way that's sorted. I'm pretty sure the sway bar is also the same. There's one that's good and one that's sad, so I'll sort that out. So yeah, simple, just diagram it out, push the nut in there, and give it a zap. Cool, happy days, repaired. Sway bar bolt is all sorted now. Look at those welds, yikes. So I've got to sort out this apron now. There's little areas here where it's like pitted in a few spots. It's just little bits of damage here and there all over the apron, and some holes and stuff to fill. And I'll finish off my joins here in here once the apron comes back off. But yeah, I'll just do the stuff that's overhead now while it's up. So also I've got to put these little tabs on to hold the lines front of the footwell there. So I just made some up, and I'll go here. Apron's back off the car now, and just gone along and bug zapped any holes that were there, just drilled out any little pitting and minor issues that are along on any spots here. So get this all tidied back up and sat back on the car. Also needed the apron off to get up access so I can TIG these little 4mm nuts in that go in here for the headlight rings. So I've got the inner tub ready to chuck back in. Just going to do some weld through along this edge here for the plugs. Alright, so edge is primed, plugs are drilled, our weld through primer been applied, ready to weld in. So I got the bar back from the chromers, and no bueno, lots and lots of holes. So we really didn't think it was this bad. It looked great on the before it got sent there and dipped, and yeah, really pitted. So unsure what I'm going to do here. I'm either going to recreate the bar. The sides are pretty decent, a few little pits in them, but yeah, pretty surprised how bad this bar actually was. Right, so I threw all the video on the computer and had a look, and it's over 2 hours so far. So I'm going to cut the video here, and I'll add the remainder of all the clips to the next final video of the car, because it's finished now. So I'll add the making of the rear bumper bar from scratch, the battery tray, finalizing other little things like headlight nuts and stuff like that, and then dropping the car off to the paint shop. So yeah, that'll be in another episode after this. So thanks for watching, and I'll post up shortly.